On Your Side is working to bring you team coverage of the flooding all weekend long. That continues, of course, today. Joe Fisher is back out in the waters this morning. He's in Virginia Beach. Joe, you're getting whipped around out there. How's it feeling right now?
Yeah, Lex, we're right at 8th Street on the ocean front, and the big story this morning is the high winds and the rough surf. You can see those winds by the tent that's blowing around behind me. This is part of the Neptune Festival. This is the International Sand Sculpture Competition. They have a modified schedule this weekend. This sand sculpture competition moved inside because of the conditions. That opens this morning at 9 a.m. And we want to give you a look at the rough surf, too. As the daybreak starts, you know, we're seeing more and more people coming down here, but no one so far appears to be going in the water. And as you can see the waves, that's probably a good idea. Coming back here, you can see down here, because of the sand sculpture competition, they have actually built this barrier right here, this sand barrier, just in case any water, were to come up or creep up on that. These barriers pretty tall, so when you go up here, this water hopefully isn't going to get up into this tent at all, as this sand sculpture competition continues today. Also, one note about the Neptune Festival, other events like the Arts and Crafts Show were moved into the Virginia Beach Convention Center. But right now we're just dealing with those winds, 10 to 20 miles an hour, according to Jeremy Wheeler. We are getting those gusts at times up to 30 miles an hour that are knocking us back, blowing the hat off. But we're still seeing runners out here this morning, people walking down the boardwalk with their hand covered, and we're still seeing some people out here enjoying the beach because the rain really hasn't happened yet, although we are possibly expecting that in a little bit. But we'll be back at 7:30 with another update. But for now, we're live at the ocean front. I'm Joe Fisher, 10 on your side.
That is some dedication to be out there running. Well, the flooding made a pretty big impact all over the area. Several cities had problems in different neighborhoods. Let's start out in Norfolk. The usual spots like the Hague saw high water take over the streets. Check out drivers trying to get through the standing water on Grace Street. We found a neighborhood by Llewellyn in Delaware completely blocked by water, and you can see some cars stalled out there. But some of the deepest flooding happened in Larchmont. One man told 10 on Your Side he measured water as high as 2 feet. But many of the homes in the area sit higher up, and residents say that made the flooding bearable this time around.
Yeah, just a mild inconvenience, but our house is elevated up about 10 feet, so that's part of the reason why it's not a problem. If we had lived down there and the house hadn't been raised, that'd probably be a different story.
The flooding should return as the tides rise throughout this morning. We also sent a crew up to the peninsula. Check out what it looked like in Poquoson last night. This is something residents are all too familiar with. Cars were moved to higher ground and loose objects tied down to keep them from floating away. The people there are treating this just like any other storm.
Typical Poquoson weather. If it gets a bad rain for 4 or 5 days, it floods like this. You know, the ditches, I mean, on a normal tide, the ditch is already flooded. So
with that said, what's the big concern? Is there a concern?
I mean, it is, and then, it isn't, but I mean, people towards the point down in Messick here, Ridge, they got their property damaged and stuff like that, because the water comes up over and it goes underneath their houses.
Once again this morning, people on the peninsula are prepared as the water should be coming back up any time now. We've got expanded coverage of the weather on WAVY.com. You can look for photo slideshows and extra video of the flooding.